Hey good people, and welcome back to my channel. Today is yet another wonderful day, and you know why? Because I get to bring you yet another video from my Game of Thrones Season 8 rewrite series. As many of you already know, the original Season 8 of Game of Thrones only went to 6 episodes. Well, the series that I've created would stretch Season 8 of the show to 10 episodes, and this particular video would cover Episode 7, which takes place a few weeks after the Battle of Winterfell. But before we get things started, if you're new to my channel and you want to support my platform, feel free to hit that subscribe button. My ultimate goal is to get 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Now let's begin. Episode 7 starts off with a flashback scene. We get to see an origin story for the Night King. In this story, the Night King was a powerful greenseer who was a descendant of the Starks, and he aided the first men in their war with the Children of the Forest. One day, the Children of the Forest learned about this greenseer and set a trap to capture him alive. When he was finally captured, none of the first men bothered to come to his rescue. The greenseer was held hostage by the Children of the Forest and ultimately turned into the first White Walker, in an effort to use the first men's greatest weapon against them. This White Walker was placed under a spell that would compel him to kill other humans. We see that this White Walker had his greenseer powers amplified, as well as the powers to manipulate the weather, raise the dead, and create beings in his own image, aka other White Walkers. We also see that this White Walker's powers amplify after winter has arrived to Westeros. However, anytime the White Walker uses his powers, he becomes physically weaker and has to rest before his powers can regenerate. We see a sequence in which the White Walker is wreaking havoc on the first men during Westeros' first winter, and the White Walker's army is killing all in their path. But when the White Walker encounters his own family members, mainly his wife and children, the spell compels him to kill them despite his attempts to resist. This event angered the White Walker, and because the spell did not prevent him from attacking the Children of the Forest, he decided to take his anger out on them and every living thing that they cherished. This is when we see the White Walker using the bulk of his powers to block out the sun and create the first long night. Cue the opening credits. At dawn, we see the Dornish King's fleet of ships arriving at Sunspear with much shock and horror. Dorne, which was sunny and had a tropical climate when the king left, is now covered in a foot of snow. The buildings are in ruin, and there are no people around in sight. The king realizes that much of Dorne, as far as the eye could see, has been attacked by the Night King. The king tells the Hand that there is a change of plan and orders his ships to sail to Pentos at once. At the Eyrie, the surviving Knights of the Vale return from their war efforts from the north and are greeted by Lord Robin. It's snowing, and we see that the Vale has changed since we last visited a few seasons ago. Lord Robin is now married with 3 kids, and as the ruler, he has kept great relations with the nearby hill tribes. In the wake of the Vale army's absence, the hill tribes have been providing protection to the Eyrie. We see Shaka, his Stone Crows, as well as more notable hill tribe members in the city. The returning Knights of the Vale inform Lord Robin that the army of the dead had killed Lord Royce and most of their mountain knights, and all hope is lost. Lord Robin, who was a decent fighter by this point, tells the remaining troops that he received a raven from Winterfell. The northern forces prevailed against the army of the dead, and they will make their last stand at River Run. Lord Robin rallies the surviving knights, the hill tribe members, and vows to lead them to River Run, while they will group together with the remaining survivors. At Old Town, it's snowing, and we see a fleet of ships evacuating people from the area. Archmaester Ebros has received a raven from Winterfell warning of the upcoming attack from the Army of the Dead, and the collective armies will be heading to River Run to make their last stand. Archmaester Ebros also orders the evacuation of the Citadel, along with its most important books and manuscripts. Archmaester Ebros is informed that the book that has all the answers that was missing from the Citadel, but he shares that the most important page needs to get to River Run. The defenders of Old Town are summoned and instructed to mount their defenses for the city. As the city is continuing to evacuate, the defenders can see the army of the dead approaching, roughly made up of 100,000 soldiers approaching the gates. Just as Archmaester Ebros and other maesters have successfully evacuated the Citadel and loaded their ships with materials from the Citadel, the army of the dead is at their gates. The defenders of Old Town fight bravely. As Archmaester Ebro sails off, we see the city being overrun by the army of the dead. Some of Old Town's soldiers are able to evacuate the city, but most fall to the army of the dead and join their ranks. At River Run, a month after the Battle of Winterfell has passed, and the northern forces, Dany's army, the Red Women, and their fiery hand have finally arrived in the area. They notice that a light snow is beginning to fall. They are greeted by the Lords of the Riverlands, as well as Randall Tarley's army that we saw bend the knee in Season 7 to Dany, following their defeat in the Field of Fire 2.0. We learn that the Tarley army has been protecting Dany's interest in the Reach and the Westerlands in Dany's absence, and they also helped evacuate civilians in the areas following the Battle of Winterfell. At River Run, we see soldiers camped out in front of the castle, as well as civilians who are looking for aid and shelter. One of the more notable civilians that we see in the area is Hot Pie, who has volunteered to cook food for everyone. Gendry is the first to get settled in and immediately start working on more weapons to fight the Night King's army. At the first war council, we see Dany, Jon, Bran, Sansa, Howland Reed, Mira Reed, Tyrion, Sir Davos, Varys, Bronn, Brienne, and Ser Jorah in attendance. Bran opens up the meeting by informing everyone that the Night King has attacked Dorne, the Reach, and already has an army bigger than the one that attacked Winterfell. Bran further shares that the Night King will be at King's Landing within the fortnight. Dany suggests that they should just let the Night King kill Cersei and her army. Jon reminds Dany that there's over 1 million people in King's Landing, and letting them die means that fighting the Night King will be impossible. Tyrion interrupts and tells Dany and Jon that he has a plan that could help prevent the Night King from massacring King's Landing, and Tyrion also apologizes to Dany and Jon for not running the plan by them first, because he believed they would be against it. Everyone in the room now knows why Arya and the Hound are missing from the council meeting. Tyrion tells everyone an abridged version of his plan, and the disclosure angers Dany because she feels that she needs to be kept in the loop on all the decision making. Bran, who already has knowledge of Tyrion's plan, tells everyone that Tyrion has the best mind in Westeros, and Tyrion's plan is needed to help defeat the Night King. Varys informs the group that Theon has killed Euron Greyjoy, and Yara now commands the Iron Fleet. Varys also shares that before leaving Winterfell, he sent a letter to Theon and Yara asking them to sail to River Run to provide some support for the battle. With hope, they may make it in time. Dany and Jon seem hopeful about their odds. Melisandre, as well as the other Red Women, join the War Council, much to the dismay of Jon, Varys, and Sir Davos. She tells everyone that she has a part to play in the final battle, and it's Jon's destiny to become Azor Ahai. Jon reminds Melisandre that there will be no more sacrificing or spilling of innocent blood during this war. Kinvara shares that their magic can help keep everyone safe during the long night, and Jon repeats himself regarding blood magic. When the meeting is over, everyone leaves the area except Bran and Tyrion. Tyrion takes this time to have a heart-to-heart discussion with Bran. Tyrion tells Bran, "I'm glad you have confidence in me, but is there anything that you have seen in the past or future that could help us win this fight?" Tyrion further shares that he has been reading the book that Sam took from the Citadel, and it is not providing any additional information that will be helpful for their efforts. Bran tells Tyrion that there are only 2 possible outcomes with the fight against the Night King, and both outcomes depend on Jon coming to terms with who he is. Tyrion understands, but he asks Bran if Bran could offer any direct help or insight that would help them win. Bran replies that his powers allow him to see everyone's past and possible future, but he has to focus on a particular person to use those powers. Bran also shares that the future that he has seen only has a happy ending if he intervenes as little as possible. His main purpose throughout the time he has as the Three-Eyed Raven is to help everyone maintain their predestined course. He then tells Tyrion that intervening or sharing too much information may come at an unforeseeable cost. Bran tells Tyrion that Dany and Jon will need him more than ever before things are over. Tyrion asks Bran what does that mean, and Bran replies to Tyrion that he is the son of the Mad King. Thus, he is the brother of Dany and the uncle of Jon. Tyrion is in complete shock, and he asks Bran how could that be. Bran tells Tyrion that the Mad King had an affair with his mother. Tywin knew about the affair, as well as his wife being pregnant, but he couldn't prove that Tyrion wasn't his. Tywin kept the news from the world because he wanted the Lannister name to command respect. But the ultimate reason why Tywin hated Tyrion all these years was because he knew that Tyrion wasn't his son. Tyrion has a flashback to the scene where Tywin tells him, "You're no son of mine," before Tyrion kills him. Tyrion takes this information in and needs a moment to process. He then leaves Bran and ponders if he has to break the news to Dany and Jon. In King's Landing, Qyburn is telling Cersei about the victory at the Battle of Winterfell, Euron's defeat at Dragonstone, and the Night King killing all in his path in Dorne, the Reach, and the Stormlands. Qyburn tells Cersei that the Night King may reach King's Landing by the fortnight, and suggests to Cersei that it may be time to either flee Westeros or make a deal with the Targaryens and hope that they take mercy on her when the war is over. Cersei refuses to concede defeat and orders Qyburn, with the help of the Golden Company, to draft as many civilians as possible to join her army. At this point in the story, Cersei has a force of 100,000 of her zombie soldiers, 10,000 Lannister soldiers, and 20,000 of the Golden Company soldiers ready to fight on her orders. This is when Arya, disguised as Jaime, approaches the gates of King's Landing with the Hound, with the mission of walking to the Red Keep. On their way to the Red Keep, they spot Sir Ilyn Payne, beheading anyone that has refused to join Cersei's army. Once they make it to the Red Keep, they request an audience with Cersei. The guards allow them entry inside and order them to surrender their weapons before meeting with Cersei. Cersei appears outside with the Mountain and allows Jaime to see her alone, while the Hound waits outside with the Mountain. Arya, still disguised as Jaime, appeals to Cersei's warm and loving side, getting close enough to her to give her a hug. This is when Arya attacks Cersei by hitting her in the head with Jaime's golden hand, knocking her to the ground. The Mountain overhears the commotion inside the room and tries to intervene, but the Mountain is there to stop him. And this is when we get Clegane Bowl. The Hound grabs the sword of a nearby guard and goes to attack the Mountain from behind, knocking off the Mountain's helmet in the process. As the Mountain and the Hound continue to fight, Arya knocks Cersei to the ground, gets on top of Cersei, and chokes her out. Just as Cersei is on the brink of death, Arya taunts her, telling her that the North remembers. And just like that, the prophecy behind Cersei dying is fulfilled. Several minutes into the Clegane Bowl, the Mountain has gotten the better of the Hound. The Hound is lying on the ground, waiting to be slain by the Mountain, when Cersei walks out of the room and commands the Mountain to stop fighting. Cersei walks behind the Mountain and in view of the Hound. The Hound is initially shocked when he sees Cersei, but when Cersei gives him a wink, he realizes that Arya has now assumed Cersei's identity. Arya, now disguised as Cersei, takes her Valyrian steel dagger and stabs the Mountain in the back of the head, killing him instantly. The Hound initially appears sad, saying that he's always dreamed of killing his own brother, but this will do. Qyburn arrives shortly after this and notices that the Mountain is dead, but maintains his own composure. Arya, still disguised as Cersei, instructs Qyburn to summon everyone at the Red Keep to the throne room for a special announcement. Qyburn is also to summon Sir Ilyn Payne to this meeting as well. While in the throne room, Cersei decides to tell all the lords, servants, and anyone willing to listen all of her confessions. She confesses to loving her brother Jaime and that the rumors of her children being Jaime's is true. Cersei admits to the many atrocities that she has committed while at King's Landing, mainly contributing to the death of King Robert, as well as killing everyone at the Sept of Baelor. Cersei then tells everyone in the room to tell the world what they saw and heard today because she will want this to be her legacy. Cersei then instructs Sir Ilyn Payne to come forward. He steps forward and Cersei approaches him. Cersei tells Sir Ilyn Payne that she wants to thank him for the many years of service and his undying loyalty. Cersei then pulls out her Valyrian steel dagger and cuts Sir Ilyn Payne's throat. She then uses the dagger to cut his head off and throw it on the floor before a shocked crowd. Cersei tells everyone the time to leave King's Landing is now. Spread the word. You can either leave by ship in Blackwater Bay or you can leave by foot to the north. As people frantically leave the throne room, Cersei tells Qyburn that she will be taking the Golden Company and the Lannister army up to Riverrun to fight the Army of the Dead. Cersei wants the newly formed zombie army to remain in King's Landing, and she gives Qyburn specific instructions for King's Landing's defense if the Night King were to show up. Qyburn tells Cersei, "As you wish, your grace," before receiving a handwritten note from Cersei. In Blackwater Bay, we see the Iron Fleet led by Yara and Theon stationed and preparing to allow civilians to come aboard. One of the Ironborn soldiers leaves the ship with a container filled with dragonglass and tells a Lannister soldier to make sure that Qyburn gets it. As ships start to sail away, we see Cersei, the Hound, the Golden Company, its war elephants, and the Lannister soldiers leave the King's Landing and travel north to King's Road. Back at Riverrun, it's starting to snow pretty heavily outside, and it's impacting the army's ability to train and prepare for their defenses. Melisandre and the other Red Women know that Jon and Dany would not be able to defeat the Night King without their magic, so they arrange a meeting with Dany by herself. Dany grants them an audience, and Melisandre informs Dany that she has been betrayed several times by the same person throughout her time at Westeros. And it has been Varys. Dany informs the Red Women that Varys swore that he would never betray her again. Quaithe tells Dany that Varys doesn't want her to sit on the Iron Throne, and he is responsible for telling everybody about Jon Snow's lineage. Quaithe also tells Dany that Varys will be the death of her if he is kept alive. Dany responds to this news with anger and hostility. Dany tells the group that she promised Varys a fiery death, but she would need to consult with someone before deciding to execute him. Dany leaves the meeting and goes to see Bran for some insight. Dany asks Bran about Varys and if the allegations against him were true. Bran tells Dany that not only did Varys betray her in telling everybody about Jon's heritage, but he also is responsible for providing information to Cersei about the Sand Snakes, Yara, as well as the Unsullied attack on Casterly Rock. Dany asks Bran why he didn't share this information with her sooner. Bran replies that Varys is where he needs to be and he has an important role to play in the war. Dany replies that it's her duty to keep her word. Bran tells Dany that she should do what she must. Melisandre has a reunion with Beric Dondarrion, and the two talk about Thoros of Myr. Beric tells Melisandre that the Lord of Light has big plans for the Hound, that he has seen it in the flames. Melisandre tells Beric that they stand a better chance of winning this war if there are more sacrifices made. Beric tells her that Gendry is at Riverrun, but his sacrifice may cause dissension in the army. Melisandre replies that they need not worry about any of that. Melisandre leaves the meeting with Beric and stares at Gendry from a distance. At this point in the episode, Bran uses his ravens to track the Army of the Dead's movements. Bran notices that the Night King has over 100 newly created and fully grown White Walkers. 200,000 of the Night King's soldiers are still in the Reach and they're heading north towards the Riverlands, while 1 million soldiers are within a day's march of King's Landing. So in King's Landing, we see the Night King's army arriving and noticing that all the city gates are open. The Night King orders his soldiers to attack the city while the Night King causes destruction with his dragon. We as the audience see scenes of the Night King's army engaging Cersei's zombie soldiers, and the Night King flies over looking for things to destroy. At this point in the episode, we see a shadow of a dragon flying over King's Landing, and we are reminded of the vision that Dany and Bran had of a dragon flying over the city. The Night King attacks the Red Keep and burns a hole in the roof. At this point of the attack, over 400,000 of the Night King's soldiers are in the city, and they've killed most of Cersei's zombies force on the ground. We then see some zombie soldiers heading towards the walls of King's Landing and uncovering several scorpions. The soldiers begin firing arrows at the Night King, and one lucky arrow hits the undead dragon, sending the Night King down to the ground. We get to see a flashback of Qyburn modifying scorpion arrows with dragonglass that was given to him by the Iron Fleet. We then have a scene in the sewers of King's Landing, and there are candles being placed near several different catches of wildfire all over the city. As the Night King regains his composure, we see a shot of King's Landing engulfed in flames of wildfire. The explosion took out half of the Night King's army, destroyed 80% of King's Landing, but did not harm the Night King one bit. As the Night King rejoins his army, we see a shot of Qyburn sailing away across the narrow sea. The Night King was extremely humbled because he was tricked by the army of the living, and this is when he looks into the sky and uses most of his powers to create an everlasting darkness. Snow begins to fall in King's Landing, and the bitter cold puts out most of the fires across the city. The only thing that we can see as the audience are glowing blue lights walking closely together. The long night has finally begun. Well folks, this marks the end of yet another episode rewrite. And as I said last episode, if you made it this far without skipping, then God bless you, because I know it was quite long. But let me know what you honestly thought about this episode rewrite in the comment section, and I will be sure to reply to each and every comment. Next week's video will cover how I would have envisioned the long night on Game of Thrones. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but I will say that several characters will most certainly be killed off, and in this version of the long night, it'll be lasting several weeks and not just a few hours like the original season. So until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.